these notes are going to be about properties of life, and that is all the living things that we have on Earth share all of these properties in common. And it may manifest itself in a different way, but in order to be classified as living, you must have all of these properties. The first is cellular organization. All living things are made of cells, and some are made of one cell and some are made of multi-cells or multiple cells. So multicellular organisms, this is a picture that you see here of many cells. This would be a multicellular organism, which is what we are. Bacteria, on the other hand, would be a one-celled organism, would be an example, and multicellular would be humans. Everything that's living has metabolism, that is, all of the chemical reactions occurring in the organism. So anything that is a chemical reaction that occurs within the organism is considered to be its metabolism, not necessarily just breaking down food, although that's one of them. Anything, building things, building proteins, those are chemical reactions. That would all be metabolism. Homeostasis is maintaining a stable internal state. This is keeping a balance, but it doesn't necessarily mean equal on both sides. So you see here at this picture, we have homeostasis and temperature control. The body heat is lost to its surrounding, and so what happens is the body temperature starts to drop. It can rise, and then your brain basically sets everything in motion to keep the body temperature the way that it needs to be. So the nervous system signals blood vessels on your skin to dilate and sweat glands to secrete, which will then help to cool your body off. Also, we have here that the body temperature drops. The nervous system signals those blood vessels to constrict and the sweat glands to remain inactive. And the nervous system sometimes has the body muscles start to contract involuntarily, and this muscle activity would help to raise the temperature back to normal. That would be like shaking. Reproduction. An organism makes its own kind with DNA. So we can see here that we have this mushroom produces spores. The spores grow hyphae, and then they become mushrooms. So this is reproduction. Life stages. All organisms go through a birth, growth, maturity, decline, and death. And we see this in anything that is living. In order to be alive, you must be born or reproduced, and then you will eventually die. Heredity is the passing on of genetic information in DNA from parent to offspring. Don't get confused with reproduction. Reproduction is producing its own kind using DNA. This is actually looking at the traits and the passing on of the genetic information, so that we see that, these kids down here got half their genetics from mom and half from dad, and that's heredity. Sensitivity is something that we don't often think of as something that's common to all living things, but it is. It's when organisms respond to an external stimuli. This could be an example, bright light. And what is the response? The squinting is the response, as you can see this woman doing here in the bright sunshine. Look at her eyes. There's no way that really she can control that squinting reaction because it is involuntary. It is part of sensitivity. And then we have adaptation. Adaptation is the ability to change to be able to survive in their environment. So we see that, adaptation can occur over long periods of time, but specifically we look at adaptation in an individual being able to survive in the environment. A good example is like the Arctic fox, where we see brown fur in the fox during the summer months and then white fur in the same individual in the winter months, because it is blending in with its environment, and it does that so that it can survive. That's all for properties of life, so make sure your notes are all complete and filled in, and you'll have everything you need to know about properties of life.